Thank you for joining us at the Clive Barker Podcast. In episode 403, Jose and Ryan catch up with the news, listener feedback, and there's an update on the interview book. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. Click the side banner and follow the link to the Etsy shop where his artwork has returned from local galleries. Check out his newest painting, The Furbies, available to buy now. Well, welcome to episode 403. This is a news episode, and good afternoon, Jose.
Hey, good afternoon, Ryan.
Hey, we're actually here. This is not a rerun. This is an actual episode again. Catching up on the news and just catching up on stuff. We haven't actually talked to each other in a little while on here. So, hey,
we got some news. We don't have a lot of news, but we got some news and we got some topics to discuss. So, thanks for joining us
and some feedback from listeners. But yeah, I guess first of all, what have you been up to since we talked last?
Apart from regular daytime job, been trying to learn an instrument. Like a neighbor left downstairs at the garage a acoustic electrified guitar. It's a cheap one, but that was cool. So it was like, hey, free. And I picked it up and brought it home.
It had a sign on it that said free?
Yeah.
Okay,
it was
so
a
it's
bunch
not
of
like,
things.
Look at all this, check out all this great stuff I got at the marina. It was just sitting in some guy's boat.
No. There were some chairs. There was there was a fan. There was a light fixture. Wow. I think someone must have moved out, and they were like, "Al, just put this stuff downstairs in the garage." And it was like, "Please take it." So there was a little electric amplifier for the guitar. There was a bag for the guitar and all that stuff. So I was like, "Well, if it's free, I'll take it upstairs." Oh. So I've been trying to learn chords and stuff. I'm a complete noob at anything music. Do you play any instruments?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Same with me. I mean, I never learned how to play any music, but I was like, this is it. This is a sign. I should learn how to play the guitar. So I've learned 2 chords so far.
I had a pretend song that I called Butterflies at Dawn on the piano. And it was basically when I was a teenager, whenever there was a gathering of people and there was a piano, I would go, and now Butterflies at Dawn. And then I'd just pound on it and go like, blah!
Oh, that's funny. Just reading stuff and checking out podcasts. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I got a new job, so I got promoted. I'm now deputy assessor, which is like the second person in charge of tax assessing for the Fairbanks North Star Borough. Which is huge. It's a lot of responsibility. I just moved myself out of a cubicle and into an office, and now I'm in charge of like personnel and stuff like that, and discipline and all kinds of things, dealing with the public grievances and mayor. People.
You're still going to deal with court cases and disputes like that.
Oh, yeah. No, I've still been before it was only the cases that I had, they're the quasi-judicial hearings for the tax appeals. But now I have to oversee all of them, for everybody's, all the appraisers' cases. I have to oversee them and come to the hearings and stuff. But luckily this year they made the hearings start at 2:00 instead of 6 p.m. So I don't have to stay until like midnight and stuff anymore.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in a courthouse until that late in the day. Courthouses are transitory places where you never want to spend more than the absolutely necessary.
It's our borough assembly chambers, so it's not quite a courthouse, but it looks like one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So it's
congrats on the promotion.
Thank you. Yep, I'm still a little nervous about it. Yesterday I was actually over getting my poster framed. Do you remember when we went to the Nightbreed premiere? That poster that we got that was limited release Malleus, I think it was, right?
Yeah, Malleus Lab or something.
Yeah, so that poster, I finally unrolled it and I got it. I'm getting it framed, so it's going to take like 5 weeks, but I'm going to hang that up in my office.
Oh, that's going to be great.
Yeah, and the Luna 7 prints with all of the Aberrat people with the weird hats. I've got 3 of those, so I'm gonna frame those also and hang them up in my office.
Did you have those from back in the day when they came out by Luna 7?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I don't know. I think there was one day when on eBay I bought a what somebody called a Clive Barker grab bag. And this was like the early days of eBay, like 2000 or something, or 99. And I got this huge, like, rolled up thing of like all of those Everville posters that I have that we give out on our Kickstarters.
Sure.
And those Razorline posters and stuff. And I had a whole bunch of the Best Cutler Gallery posters with the 3 paintings on it.
Yeah, I love the ones that you sent me.
Oh yeah. So all of that stuff came in a big old Clive Barker grab bag that also included like the box of blood, right? Those trading cards and it just had a ton of stuff. And the Weave World. I had the Weave World advanced. Yeah. Or uncorrected proof. I get those two things confused because they're so similar, but. It was one of those 2 things. And so I had a couple of those and just a huge box full of stuff that I got in the late 90s from.
That sounds like a great grab bag. I mean, advanced reader copies. Uncorrected proofs, right?
Yeah.
Those can go for a pretty penny on eBay.
Yeah. And I don't own those anymore because it's like, I just want to collect hardcovers. And so I think we sold those or kind of gave them out in one of our Kickstarters.
Oh, yeah. I guess I've also worked a little bit on the book, doing a last polish pass on that. And we finished the cover for the book. So you got those.
It looks great. It's a little different from what we've been showing in that it's a negative. So it's black with white lines rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
And I love it. It looks great.
I was inspired by the Imaginer books from Phil and Sarah. So
oh, yeah.
I wasn't consciously trying to copy them, but once I did that in negative, I was like, oh, this reminds me of the Imaginer book covers. I think I'll keep this one.
And more recently, Dark Worlds, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Dark Worlds, that's an amazing book.
Yeah, and I've been working on that too, but I've been fighting with an Apple issue that I have had some really frustrating difficulties with. So it's like I took the Word file and converted it into Pages, which is Apple's, desktop publisher program. And I took that and and I exported it to an EPUB file. And I also did, export to Apple Books. And that's I did that and it's like, oh, you need to set up an iTunes Connect account for selling books. So I did all of that. I got my bank verified and then I went back to do it again. And now it won't send the book over to that account. It just says, hey, you need to sign in, or you're signed into the wrong account or something. And I called Apple about it, and they're like, no, you need to get your help from the iTunes Connect people. And I'm like, okay, well, there's no phone number for those guys. And they said, oh, well, yeah, I see that. You just go to their website and click on the help, and they'll send you an email. It's like, but this is really something I want to talk through with someone on the phone. And so I got it. I did do what they said, and I got an email that didn't seem super helpful, but I have to check it out. Like probably today, I'll look at that again.
All right. Well,
it's kind of a long roundabout way of saying that we're trying. We're hoping to get this thing out as quick as we can.
Yeah, I was actually looking at eBay stuff last night. I was trying to find stuff by Clive Barker that I don't have. And I did find some uncorrected proofs for Imagica and I think it was Weave World. Oh. Some guy's selling both of them for like $130 or something.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's not bad, yeah. But it's like you said. I mean, it depends on how much you want to have that sort of copy. I mean, there's not a lot made of uncorrected proofs, and they do serve a certain kind of purpose when it comes to the chronology of a book release. I don't know. I'm thinking about it, but I did drop off of Hulu. I drop off my Hulu subscription. Oh, because I wasn't really watching anything else on Hulu, at least not regularly. And I also have Netflix and Amazon Prime and a few other things. So I dropped off of that because I started supporting another podcast So that one's $5 a month, and Hulu is $16 a month. So,
is this like an optional thing, or you can only hear it if you pay the $5 a month?
Oh, it's a well-known podcast. I'm not going to say it here, but it gives you access to the archives. So on Spotify, you only get a certain number of episodes back, and then after it falls off that certain number of episodes, it's locked behind the archives. And so I just decided to support another podcast and pay the $5 a month. But yeah, I dropped off of Hulu for now. The good thing about this a la carte thing, right, is that you can always go back to it at any time.
Yeah. Of course, when you do, it'll probably cost more. But you can't – I mean, that's not like you get a discount for staying either, though. I mean, when they raise the price, they do it for everybody.
The funny thing is that Hulu does have an option that's cheaper with ads.
Yeah. That really messes us up when we try to watch movies for,
commentaries.
So, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of like the idea of the flexibility of the a la carte thing nowadays. I mean, some things some people will say, well, they nickel and dime you because now you got to pay this for Netflix and that for Amazon Prime and that for like whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's true. But at the same time, it's not like you have to call someone to come in and install a cable box in your house, and then you have to get a bunch of channels you don't even watch. And at least, you just pay the, whatever a monthly bill for that app, and all you got to do is click the button that says subscribe, and then all of a sudden you have access to it. And when you want to stop, you just stop.
Yeah, but I mean, Netflix used to be like, wasn't it like $10 or something for the DVD delivery, and then another $5 if you wanted the online stuff?
Right. I was never a member when it was just DVDs. I just came in much later. Yeah.
I did that. But now the online stuff is all they do, and it's like 16 or 17. I forget how much it costs, but it's a lot more than it was back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I got some paperbacks recently. Robert E. Howard stuff. And
Conan.
Yeah, Conan. I had gotten one that I haven't read yet. I didn't know that Robert Jordan had written Conan paperbacks too, but but apparently it's a thing.
And
so
let's see. What else did I've been playing Phantasy Star Online a ton. I've got it hooked up now on my GameCube and my original Xbox through a service that spoofs the original Xbox Live service. It takes a little bit of soft modding on your Xbox to do it, but now I can play with Joel and stuff on there because we can online, which is nice. I've been trying to get you to do it, but you keep blowing me off.
I don't mean to. Sorry. It's just I haven't used that Wii in such a long time.
Well, you could even just put it on your computer. You could just do the Dolphin emulator.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You did say that. But I looked at the game. It's not really my kind of game. Sorry. But I will give it a shot with the Dolphin emulator, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking that up right now.
It's like a massive online role playing game kind of a thing, but it's like you get together in groups of 4 and go out and do missions, and it's really kind of set up like Diablo. So it's like there are 800 million different kinds of weapons and armor and stuff like that, and so there's a sort of a slot machine type of a feel to it because you don't know what you're going to find every time you go out.
The last RPG that I had played was the Elder Scrolls Online, which I bought like on sale for $5 or something, or $7.
But do you have to pay a subscription for that?
You don't anymore. You can if you want to. It'll give you a few more advantages, and it'll give you like a certain number of crowns and whatever, and jewels, and I don't know, like a mascot and a mount and all that stuff. But you can also just buy it for like cheap and just play it without having any of the add-ons, which works. But man, that game, I just took it off of my hard drive because that game occupied over 100 gigabytes on my computer. And sometimes it would have an update.
When people have SSDs, that's like half your space.
Well, yeah, I mean my solid state drive is a terabyte, but it's still a big chunk of it. Yeah, you're right. So since I didn't really do a lot of multiplayer playing, and I pretty much just did kind of like a single player in a multiplayer game, I decided, it's fine. Also, whenever that thing updates, you have to download 30 gigabyte updates, and it can take forever to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. But this one Sega doesn't support it anymore. So Phantasy Star Online, you gotta play it by kind of soft modding and pointing it at a fan-driven server, which is kind of neat. It makes it a small community, where before there was sort of rampant hacking and stuff when Sega had it, and it was a little chaotic. But now it's more of like sort of an intimate experience with a smaller community that kind of everybody knows each other.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I just downloaded the Dolphin emulator while you were talking, so I will see how I can install that Phantasy Star, and then we might be able to play it this weekend.
All right. That would be cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's where we've been at. Oh, and on today, so as we're recording this, today is May 7th. On May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, it was 5 years ago on that day that we went to Texas Frightmare Weekend in 2018, right? Doesn't seem like it was 5 years ago, but it was.
I know. Yeah. And we joined up with our good folks at Little Spark Films, Joe and Catalina, and a whole bunch of other people.
Yep. And Rob and Marcus and David went with us.
Yeah. It was such a fun time. It was the first time I went to a major convention like that, so I had a blast.
Yeah, it was great. It was so huge, and it was pre-pandemic, so it was like one of the last ones before things changed in that respect.
Although con crud was a thing at the time.
Oh God, yeah, it was. Yeah,
because you're sitting in a hotel hallway in line for how many hours did we wait in line to see Clive?
6.
Oh my God, 6 hours in line. I got pictures of you next to the Rawhead Rex bust and stuff that was in line with us. Yeah. I think you have those pictures, right? I sent all that stuff.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, no, I remember that. That was a super long line.
And we riffed the Barn of the Blood Llama, right?
And the best we could. The DVD broke down in the middle of watching it, and we had to restart it and try to get back to where we were.
I still don't have the 25th anniversary edition of the DVD. I lost it over there in Texas. I have an empty box.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But it's fine because I did rip the DVD into an ISO file, so I can burn it back. Also, when I bought the DVD for Barn of the Blood Llama, which has a little bit of Clive Barker reciting something at the beginning, I got the box, and inside the DVD for the commemorative edition was just a burned DVD to begin with. So I mean, it's.
Yeah, and what we should have done from the start was just watch a ripped version of it instead of trying to watch the DVD, which is probably off balance because of the label on it, and which is what made it crash when we were watching it.
Oh, yeah, that could have been it. So it was a fun time.
Yeah. That whole time was cool. We got to meet lots of people, and it was awesome. And doing that commentary at our Airbnb was neat.
And it was the first time I ever got to meet Clive Barker, too. So,
oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
We got the nice picture framed. And we miss you, Rob. Give us an update. What's going on with you?
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to news from the Reef. There hasn't been a lot, right? So we put a call out in our BarkerCast listeners group on Facebook, and if you're and in our Discord. So if you are a listener, and I'm assuming you are, because you're hearing this, you should check those out. If you're on Facebook, go to our listeners group, and the Discord link is on our website, so you can go check that out too. But yeah, so we got some answers for, we're saying, hey, anything we can shout out from our, from our friends. And Pete Atkins said, "Thanks for asking, Ryan. I have a new short story coming in Darkness Beckons, the latest anthology from editor Mark Morris. It'll be published in October by Flame Tree Press in both the US and UK. And it's been 6 months since the paperback and ebook of All Our Hearts Are Ghost Ghosts were released. I bought that, by the way. I have that on my nightstand waiting to read that until after I get through another book that I'm reading. I'm reading Moontown right now.
Nice.
An ebook was released and both Encyclopocalypse Publications and I are hoping that the audiobook will be done before its first birthday. So yeah, that's awesome, Pete. I can't wait. I should take more time reading and less time playing video games, so I would get through these things a little quicker.
It's funny because I stopped playing so much video games because I had been playing a lot of Skyrim and Fallout 4 and Morrowind. I actually have a big map of Morrowind just scotch taped to my wall. I'm looking at it right now. It's in front of my computer. I stopped playing it because I started getting back into reading.
Oh, okay.
And because I have some issues going to sleep every night, and I think it's because of being on screens before I go to sleep.
Oh yeah.
So I started trying to cut down on screen time, and I started reading books, and I've been reading little books here and there, and
that helps me sleep. It makes your eyes get tired.
Yeah, that's true. So I just I was reading the graphic novel of The Inkall by Jodorowsky, which I had read when I was a teenager many times. And I bought a hardcover of The Inkall, and I was reading that. So that was one of the things I've been reading. And then I read Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, which was also very interesting. And and I was reading from the All Our Hearts Are Ghosts. In the appendixes of that book, you have Songs of Metal and Flesh, which is the script for a Hellraiser comic book story from the 90s.
Yeah.
So that the script for that one is in this book. Yeah, and also Children of Fire, which is the story of the characters that become Cenobites in Hellraiser 3, like DJ the Cenobite and all those.
Originally published, I think, in the Dread Summer Special.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying some Pete Atkins before I go to sleep, too.
Yay. Yeah, that's awesome. Or Demons and Deviants. I think maybe it was in that, which was, trying to remember.
I think Children of Fire was in the Dread Summer Special or something.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you were right the first time.
Okay. Yes. And, and also we have there were a couple of updates from Pete that you had gotten maybe from his Facebook or Twitter. There was a mini Rolling Darkness Revue Reunion.
Right.
And a LitFest opening reception.
Yep. So it turns out that Glenn Hirschberg and Peter Atkins met with Jonas Yip, who was the guy who provided the live music for their LA shows for the Rolling Darkness Revue. They all met at a signing by Glenn Hirschberg at Dark Delicacies last Saturday. So that was fine. They took a picture together. And, go check out Glenn Hirschberg's new collection, Tell Me When I Disappear, Vanishing Stories. And then he did another update about being at the Los Angeles Literary Fest. And let me see. He posted a picture of everybody having lunch or something. So
that's cool.
It is also there in the show notes. A little picture with Peter Atkins, Dana Middleton, Laura Stegman, Susan Gordon, Jonathan Levitt, and they were all at a LitFest opening reception.
All right. Well, yeah, we love to try to share as much as we can from Pete. But he's kind of like Paul Kane in that it's hard to keep up sometimes. And, the small amount of these news episodes that we do, sometimes we miss things. So that's kind of why I wanted to also ask, for our friends, ask for their help, to remind us of the stuff that, all this stuff that comes out, that we can try to keep up and make sure that we're sharing our friends' things. So Martin Mercer also let us know that his new upcoming episode of their Wrong Side of Hollywood podcast, their new episode is going to feature Guy Masterson, who's the director of the West End hit A Shark is Broken.
I love Martin Mercer's podcast. It's from Hoff and James and Martin. Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to British Beef, which is the latest episode earlier this morning before I got a phone call from Ed Martinez, our friend. Yeah. And so I was listening to that. They talk a lot about food in their podcast, but they also talk about, storyboards, concept art, movies, all sorts of things. I mean, Martin Mercer was involved with Renfield, which is that Nicolas Cage movie that came out where he plays Dracula.
Didn't he do the
storyboards and stuff
for it? Yeah.
Yeah, he posted a little video of it on his Facebook, I believe.
And that's out in theaters right now as we're recording this.
That's right. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely interested. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that too. Oh, our good friends, Little Spark Films, have just barely put up an IndieGoGo for their upcoming film, Death World, that they're planning. The IndieGoGo, at the time that we're recording this, is still like a pre-IndieGoGo, so you can't donate yet, but keep an eye out.
It's a preview. We got the chance to look at the preview for the IndieGoGo, so it's not live, like you said. Yeah. But they got a lot of stuff there that I was looking into, and a lot of interesting options for tiers in the IndieGoGo. They have amazing artwork explaining what needs to be done for the movie, the locations, costumes, logline synopsis, storyboards. So it's very, very interesting idea. So the premise is that two guys cut work and go see a movie, right? And then there's a demon that comes out of the theater screen and kills one of their friends. And then the other guy has to avenge him, and he has the sword of Kronos to defeat the demon. So I like it. The visuals are really great in this teaser trailer, and there's some interesting makeup effects. It looks like it's very promising. So yeah, I hope that they make their goal.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to that one. We were involved with their IndieGoGo for the Torturer. Yeah, and that was great. And now it's all playing in film festivals all over the world, and it's on streaming on Amazon Prime and Tubi and Plex and stuff. So yay! It's nice to see our friends successful. And,
yes, and that's where you can come in. Your contributions go to all the moving parts that go into making a film, from special effects to camera and lighting or cast and crew. And they say here, Death World focuses on practical effects. We're going to need a lot of blood.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to that.
It's funny how things evolved from being like a fake trailer idea for a festival, and then it's like, hey, there's something here that we could definitely turn into a longer feature.
Yeah, kind of like those fake trailers that Robert Rodriguez did for Machete, right? That they turned into aren't there two movies of that now?
Yes, Machete, and then there was also you remember when they did the Grindhouse double feature? They had some fake trailers in there, Thanksgiving, and now Thanksgiving is going to be a movie.
Oh, really?
I think it's Eli Roth's going to make it or something.
Oh, wow.
There was that Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS. There was Rob Zombie fake trailer. There was what else? There was a whole bunch of things, and some of those, became real movies like Machete.
Yeah, that's cool. Ed Martinez, you were talking to him earlier today, and he sent us an excerpt from an interview that he did with Keith Thompson, who is one of the creature designers, right, for Hellraiser, the Hulu 2022 right. Hellraiser.
Mm-hmm. And he made the concept art for the Cenobites.
Yeah, and so we'll play that here, and then afterwards we'll come back. But also, I'd like to put this on our YouTube channel, so we'll have a link to that too, and so that we can kind of share this teaser for Ed, and then the full version will be available on Ed's YouTube.
Sounds great. Yeah, I think they're finalizing this. They have a lot of stuff. It's not just an interview with Keith Thompson. They have interviewed actress who played Cenobites. They have interviewed Mikey Rotella, who sculpted the Chatterer, and I think they went back in with the Russells again, the Russell Effects team.
Is that going to be all in the same video or in different videos?
I don't know. I think it might be different videos.
Okay.
But but the next drop is going to be soon. He was telling me this morning. So let's keep an eye out for Ed Martinez's YouTube channel.
All right. Well, and here we'll play that for you right now.
So Cheddar was interesting. He was quite different in the script at some point. So there's some weird takes that I did earlier based off of that. And we ended up kind of bringing him back. I always felt Chatterer was very much like Pinhead, where to me, he's so iconic and such a elegant design. We had on the left, we've got Mother. That was definitely one of the kind of fringe ones. And it ends up being very fringe in the final movie, obviously. So kind of one of those ones I would jump over to where it was a bit of a wild card. I think Mother was one of the first things I touched on, but in different takes on what the Cenobites might have been. But Mother was one of the kind of the first ones because it was very, very loose at the beginning where I was just, she kind of evolved to the point where she was. So what would happen is I would jump around between the Cenobites as we were exploring. In essence, what we were trying to explore initially was eventing things to see where they landed. Mask went through like a crazy amount of iteration of just different attempts on him. And honestly, I think the biggest thing that made him click was when we cracked what his great desire is, which is knowing things, which is knowledge. This kind of, which goes back to, it's a bit of that kind of, that's the kind of dangerous passion of the Lovecraftian protagonist. I went quite wild with a lot of the initial takes where Voight was even more stricken by the kind of contraption that they gifted him and merged with his body. It sort of was one of those things where it was getting piled on too much. There was some interesting stuff going on, but it would have required far more time and kind of involvement for it to come across and to read properly and for us to get a sense of what's going on. If you notice on the loom, you can see it's got these two hooks on the top, because one of the things I felt was he's got his jacket cut so that he can still wear his blazer.
Like Frank.
Exactly. This kind of, I remember that was always such a sensory aspect of the original. And the second one, this sense of that whole sense of not having skin, but then the feeling of having clothes on top is sort of still forcing yourself to wear clothes puts you on edge, sympathizing with what the
blood
sensation. Yes, and exactly. I have those kind of in relation to each of the kind of nerve pulleys on his jacket. There would be these stains, almost like rib marks, that would go into the blazer. And if you notice on top, it's got two hooks. And the idea would be that Voight basically can't lay down with this thing. So he would actually have these chains in his bedroom, and he sort of suspends himself to get what little kind of pockets of unconsciousness he can manage. I even did a depiction of possibly the scene where someone actually discovers him, stumbles in on him like this, and you think a horrible victim of something, but it's actually Voight trying to get some sleep.
Rest.
Yeah, trying to rest, exactly.
Okay, awesome. That was great.
Yeah, did you see those different concept designs for concept designs for the Cheddar?
Yeah, one of them was like the dog kind of version, the attack dog or attack monkey version that Clive had sort of envisioned when they were planning the original Hellraiser.
It looked like his arms and legs were extended with these giant screw-like frames, right?
Yeah, but he was on all fours, like he was envisioned in originally.
When I was talking to him this morning with Ed, I said this reminded me of the Return to Oz wheelies.
Oh, I don't think I ever saw that movie. I know that I've heard that it's weird.
It is very interesting. Yeah, it's got what's the name of that actress? She was a child actress at the time. She was also in The Craft. She's got those like clear blue eyes and oh man, what is the name I'm trying to remember? Return to Oz. Let me go ahead and look that up. The little girl, Fairuza Balk.
Oh,
yeah, it's with Fairuza Balk. There's these creatures there called the wheelies, and they got wheels. They got extended arms and legs, and they got wheels at the end of them. And they roll around in fours, and they kind of reminded me of this new Cheddar. And there's another version of the Cheddar that has like a flat, chopped off head. Did you see that one?
Yeah, briefly. I mean, so it's the video that we got. It's there are flashes of things on the screen as they're talking about them,
and the hooks on the loom that crosses Voight's body, and they were supposed to have these hooks on it that you can still see in some shots in the movie. there were these hooks on either side of the loom.
Yeah, and it explains why, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I guess I'm not going to spoil that.
Yeah, well, and everybody just heard it too. So.
Yeah. So
right.
That's right. But interesting ideas that kind of shows you how certain ideas in movies, people come up with ideas for how this should be done, and then they change, and then the final movie has something different, but you can still see the little remnants of those ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and something else that Ed shared with us in our Facebook chat, that Cinema Slime, which is like a horror T-shirt company, they have a Nightbreed T-shirt, they have a Hellbound shirt that's sold out, and they have a Dead Pit shirt, which is Ed Martinez's movie. He was in charge of the special effects for Dead Pit.
That's right.
And for people, if you're like me, you have nostalgia for that old VHS cover, seeing it in the video store, that you would push a button and the eyes would glow red from little lights in his eyes.
Yeah. And there was one for Frankenhooker that if you click the button on the VHS tape box, it would say, "Want a date?"
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, you can find those on eBay. They go for a pretty penny if they're in good condition. Because those things had a little battery inside. So when the battery died, it was like those greeting cards, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Where you open it up, it says, "Happy birthday."
Yeah, right. It's hard to imagine now that any of that stuff from, 30, 40 years ago still works.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I still got VCRs that work, so there's that.
Right, yeah, that's true. But they don't run on a battery.
I love the Cinema Slime Hellbound Hellraiser 2 sweatshirt.
That's pretty neat.
It's just a monocolor, monotone green and black.
Yeah.
But it's that neon green, and it's got Hellraiser written down your sleeves. Very, very, very cool stuff. You can find a lot of stuff on big cartel websites from people making all sorts of graphic design work. And these T-shirts and sweatshirts are really, really cool.
That reminds me, do you remember, what was it, a few months ago we reported about new Nightbreed T-shirts that had like Japanese on them? They said like Median, and they had
yeah, I remember.
Decker,
I think it was Rucking Fountain.
Yes,
T-shirts?
That's right. So mine just came in the mail like a couple of weeks ago.
Hey,
so I got my shirts, and they're awesome. I haven't actually worn them yet because, when I look at them, I'm like, hey, this is a little scary to be wearing around my son. So I haven't put them on yet, but they're cool, and I love I love that they're they've got the Japanese advertising on them and stuff.
Yeah. That looks cool though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was at a concert recently. I went to see Gary Newman with Ministry, and Frontline Assembly was the opening act.
So all like industrial stuff.
Yeah. I went to see that on Friday. We're recording on Sunday, and I did see a guy with a Hellbound T-shirt. So that was
really
cool. Yeah.
Nice.
There was a lot of goth people in there, and industrial goth, and
I'm trying to remember. Does Ministry put a lot of like a little blurbs from movies and stuff in their songs?
I think so. They definitely had a lot of audiovisual effects going on during the concert, with images and flashing like graphics on the screen. So that was an extremely awesome concert. I was there for almost 4 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah, because it was Frontline Assembly opening, and then Gary Newman came in and he did his set, and then Ministry comes in and he did his set. And then Gary Newman joined Ministry on stage for an encore. So by the time I got out, the doors open at 7, and I got out of there by 11. So what a night!
That's cool. So that's those Cinema Slime T-shirts. You can still get the Nightbreed one and the Dead Pit one, and Ed even sent us a picture of him wearing the Dead Pit shirt, which was kind of nice. It was cool to see. Ed's looking good. We haven't actually seen him in a while because he doesn't turn his camera on when we see him, but when we're talking to him.
Yeah, I was telling him just that. I was like, dude, you look even younger than in some pictures I've seen of you.
Yeah. We won't push him, but I think everybody would be totally happy and cool with being able to see Ed.
Cinema Slime, get slimed.
Yes. Yeah, and then you found a couple of interviews, right? These aren't news exactly, but they're a couple of cool interviews from a while back that maybe people haven't been talking about.
Right, I did. I was looking for stuff this morning, and I found out one thing is, if you listen to NPR, you might be familiar with Terry Gross and the program Fresh Air. So I don't know how I got to this exactly. I was looking for news, and I found a link to the archives of Fresh Air. It's an interview from May of 1987 where Terry Gross is interviewing Clive Barker about the release of Damnation Game. And it's an audio interview. It's really good. So I listened to the whole thing. It's like 10 minutes long, a little over 9 minutes.
We'll have a link in the show notes there, so you can listen to that, and maybe we'll even post it on our Facebook page.
That's right.
Well, to kind of share that out, because it's
cool. Funny. It's funny because Terry Gross is telling Clive at one point how revolting the book scenes are, and he's like, "Oh, thank you. You're just flattering me now." And then he reads a little bit of the Damnation Game. He reads a scene where Karis is in a bathroom and she's getting a psychic attack of some sort. And then they talk about how he got to see an autopsy, which is a story that often comes up in articles, but I never heard Clive actually say it. And he talks about that experience. So really neat 1987 blast from the past.
So this would have been Damnation Game would have been out for 2 years. The Hellbound Heart was out in a magazine at that time, right? And Hellraiser was not quite out in theaters yet. I think the Hellbound Heart came out in that George R. R. Martin anthology, right? Yeah, Night Visions. Night Visions 3, I believe. Yeah. I have a paperback of Night Visions 3. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I bought it at a Goodwill, but someone used the book to cut things with an X-Acto knife, so the cover was all chopped to bits. But wow. I still got to read it, and that was kind of interesting. I have what I got was that originally all the when it was published as a book, all in the U.S. all you could get was a paperback with that cool thing on the cover with the guy that's sitting on the floor, and he's also a face, also like Frank's face at the same time. It's hard to describe. I don't think I've seen that cover. You should send me an image. We've talked about it, I think, before, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll show you that. But okay. Yeah, it was a U.S. paperback edition, and I kept on saying, "Hey, where's the hardcover?" Well, every book has a hardcover first and then paperback, because I didn't know. I was new to all this stuff, and so I ordered the Hellbound Heart that was $17 from a bookstore because they had that in their back stock or whatever. And when I got it, it was the audiobook on cassette. Read by Clive? Yeah, exactly. Which was a kind of a happy accident that I ended up getting that. Are you talking about the cover where there's the demons are giving the underskin massage to the guy? Yes. Well, and I don't even have that book anymore because I got the 25th anniversary or the 20th anniversary one instead. Okay, understood. Yeah, but here all you have to do is just do a Google search of. Yeah. I'm looking at the cover right now. The guy is sitting in a yoga position, and then there's two Cenobites on each side. Yeah, but when you turn it upside down, it's a face. Oh yeah, there's two eyes coming out of it. Yep, it's like a skinned man. Yeah, I used to have the British cover, the one that has Frank and Julia kissing, and it's painted, and then there's Pinhead behind them. Right. And then, yeah. I never owned that one, but I've seen it. Yeah, that's the one I got. Yeah. So, and then there was another interview that you found, right, from the Guardian. Yeah, that was an interview not too long ago, but it was an article from 2017 titled "How We Made Hellraiser," and an interview by Phil Hode, and he talked to Clive Barker about how they started the idea of making Hellraiser, and he was inspired. Pinhead was inspired by a hardcore S&M club in New York, where Clive watched people getting pierced for fun. And then the article starts with,
I worked as a hustler in the 70s because I had no money. I met a lot of people you'll know and some you won't. Publishers, captains of industry. The way they acted, and the way I did, to be honest, was a source of inspiration later. Sex is a great leveler. It made me want to tell a story about good and evil in which sexuality was the connective tissue. So there you go. And it goes on from there. And they talk about how Hellraiser was originally going to be called Hellbound. That was the idea that Clive had for the movie. And then I think it was Chris Figg that said, you should call it Hellraiser. And then it was like, oh, yeah, that kind of comes at you a little more, you know. So interesting things there.
Yeah, well, but that didn't stop them from using Hellbound the second time around, right?
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah. So let's get into. We've got feedback and questions and stuff like that from our listeners. So Dalton Elliott in email said, "Hey, I wanted to say that I'm a humongous fan of the BarkerCast podcast. It's awesome to have a podcast about Clive Barker and so much info about the work.
Nice.
What do you think of the 92 Harvest of Evil tour he did and the anthology Hellraiser stuff from 89 to 93 and the Marvel Pinhead stuff?" So we'll stop there. There's more, but we'll continue on after we respond to this part. Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about, right?
So honestly, I went to, I was going to his book signing tours at that time, and I don't remember that tour at all. I don't think that I knew about it. I think I was following the book tours and not the comic book stuff at all at that time. I think I only got into the comics later after I'd collected everything that he had and read everything, all of his books and stuff, and then I went back and got into comics and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I remember vaguely, like 92. I don't think I was aware of the tours that Clive Barker was doing, except maybe through the CliveBarker.com website, where they used to have a little news section. I was a member of the Lost Souls fan club for a while, but I think that was after 92.
Yeah.
So living in Portugal and having only moved to the U.S. in 2013, I didn't have a lot of chances to actually meet Clive and go to signings and stuff like that, because I don't know that Clive ever came to Portugal. I'm sure he must have visited Portugal privately, but not as part of any sort of signing or anything.
Yeah.
But what do I think of the anthology Hellraiser stuff from 89 to 93?
Yeah, or I guess that would be the comics in general, right?
Yeah, I love the comics.
I do too.
I have almost 2 complete sets, one in Portugal, and then I wanted them to read them again, and I was like, I found a cheap eBay auction that had most of the Hellraiser comic books from Epic, so I just bought that.
Right, and that was so we could talk about them here on the podcast, right? I mean, we did episodes about all the Hellraiser comics. I think they're great. I mean, some more than others. Them. Yeah, I mean, some of them are just amazing, and some of them were like, "Oh, come on, give me a break."
I like them all. Yeah, I like them all. I wasn't so much on board with the Boom comics. I mean, they did some interesting things with the Boom comics more recently.
Yeah, yes and no. I think for me, I loved some of the Boom comics, and then it felt like it was like one of those stories where it's like you tell part of it and then pass it on to somebody else. And that was taking its toll on the narrative, and there were things that were important to one writer, and then the next writer completely just didn't care about that and dropped the ball on it, and went in a completely different direction. And so I think in that aspect, that part of it wasn't my favorite, but I think it started out really strong, and then it got a little convoluted and confusing by the end.
Yeah, but the early comic books from Hellraiser from Marvel's Epic label, I really enjoy them. They are part of my fandom. They're a fundamental cornerstone of my fandom of Hellraiser. You had painted stories. You had John Bolton. You have John Bolton making that first opening story, and
or Neil Gaiman wrote an issue, right?
Right, Neil Gaiman did a story. It's called Wordsworth, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's some really amazing stories in those Marvel comics. If there's anything that I would probably say is that the anthology format required little short stories that were Hellraiser themed. And sometimes some of them, like John Rossum stories and stuff, they were really, really good. And they could be very short, but really good. But sometimes you were left feeling like I wanted more out of this story.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like you wanted to know more, but introduced so many different expansions to the lore, different Cenobites. You would see like entire like crowds of Cenobites in the labyrinth with Leviathan. And they were really, really good. I mean, if you were a Hellraiser fan and you haven't read those Hellraiser comics, you're missing out on a big chunk of the Hellraiser material that's out there.
And then he mentioned the Marvel Pinhead stuff. That was okay. It wasn't as good as the Hellraiser, the 89 to 93 Hellraiser run.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It's more cartoony in a way. It's more like an introduction. It would be a great introduction to know more about the character.
And you could kind of say the same about the Harrowers, right? I mean, the Harrowers seemed like it was just getting off the ground when they shut it down, and so we didn't really get to know it enough, I think. Yeah,
it started in the Hellraiser comics, right?
Yeah.
It started there, the Harrowers, and then they got to have their own limited series comic book.
I think probably more limited than they were planning.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting counterpoint to the Cenobites to have like Leviathan and then Mortimam, and then have someone who could actually fight with the Cenobites on an equal scale.
Yeah,
to rescue souls from hell. So I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah,
it never really took off the way they wanted, I guess. Like you said, it kind of got shut down before it could go to more interesting places.
Well, and there was the glut of comics right in the early 90s that created a bust in the comic book market. And, at that time, everybody was papering their bird cages with X-Men #1. There were so many copies of that.
Yeah, I remember. Hey, Jim Lee revitalized the X-Men. I remember when the self-titled just X-Men would come out.
Yeah, and it had like 6 different covers or something on it. And there were just stacks of those things everywhere.
Actually, Jim Lee this week just he just became president of DC Comics.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
I know. The Jim Lee now is president of DC Comics this week.
Wow. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pinhead comics had a certain charm, and I say that without trying to be sarcastic. I like the idea that there are these entities that have inhabited different forms throughout history, from the caveman Pinhead to the one that we know.
And there was like the Archbishop Pinhead, or in the Catholic Church that nobody said, "Hey, why you got pins sticking out of your head?"
With a mustache.
Yeah, right.
Interesting story.
Yeah.
A little more cartoony, like I said. That's all I'll say about it. It's a little more cartoony, but hey, at the time they were trying to make the comics more accessible to not just adults, but also, younger adults and teenagers that would get into that stuff. So I understand that. So
Dalton goes on to say, I have some of his toys and recently did buy an advertisement from the 92 Hellraiser 92 Harvest of Evil and Marvel Epic Anthology Hellraiser 1989 to 1993/2 poster book. I'd enjoy having his autograph, and I do also have some of his Imaginer/Illustrator releases from 1990 and 1993. I appreciate everything you at the BarkerCast podcast do. So thank you, Dalton. Yeah, that's cool about having that poster, that Harvest of Evil poster. That's pretty neat. Are you going to get it framed? So you'll have to send us a picture of where you end up hanging it, if you've done that already.
And what kind of toys do you have? I have some of the NECA Cenobites. I never really collected the whole thing, but I do have like a handful of NECA Cenobites. I was looking yesterday, like I was saying, I was looking at eBay for Clive Barker stuff, and I found some Tortured Souls, and it's like, wow, some of them have gotten really expensive. But and then there's Jump Tribe that I never got into that, but you did.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I'm right there also with you on the video games, right? I mean, I when Jericho came out, I played through that on I beat it on every difficulty so I could get all of the achievements, the Xbox Live achievements. And
the files unlocked, right? There was like unlockable files about the characters and the monsters.
Right. Yep. So I unlocked all those, and I beat Undying also, which was not easy. That was a tough game to beat. Now I can't even play it anymore because it won't run on my computer. It's too old.
I think I still have Undying installed in a laptop.
Oh.
I got stuck in this area where you go into this area that has these guys like pirates, and then you have to get into a building, and I don't know where to go from next.
Yeah.
I'll have to look up a playthrough on YouTube. But I was trying to get Jericho a few weeks ago. I saw that someone uploaded a copy of the disc for Jericho to like the web archive.
Yeah.
And I tried to burn that and install it in my computer, but for some reason with Windows 10 that doesn't work anymore. There's a whole bunch of errors that come up. So do you still have the Jericho on the Xbox?
Yeah, and I still have an Xbox 360, so I can still play that game if I want to.
Wow.
I don't know if my save games are still around, but the achievements will follow me on my Xbox Live account.
I wonder if the graphics are the same for the Xbox as they were for the PC version.
I think so. It was also on PlayStation 3, and I tried to play. I used to have that version. I tried to play it on the PlayStation 3, and the controls were just different enough to mess me up. So
I would love to be able to play Jericho again, because I would love to be able to put some of that on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I can't seem to find a way to legally install Jericho in my computer, in my Windows 10 computer. So I don't know how to proceed with that. If anybody out there has any ideas, please let me know.
You could get a cheap Xbox 360. I mean, you could probably get one of those for $20 from a garage sale. And
you think so?
Yeah, and just buy as long as you don't get one that's got the red ring of death.
Right. Which
just happened to my Xbox 360. So my brother gave me his. He had a special edition R2-D2 one.
Huh. So those are still that cheap? I'm not sure that I can find Xboxes that cheap.
Xbox 360, yeah. They're like 2 generations back. So they're not old enough to be like classic, right? So they're in that sweet spot right now where they're dirt cheap.
I mean, I'm seeing some on eBay right now.
It's like getting a DVD player, right?
I'm seeing some on eBay, and they go for $200 and stuff like that. So I don't know. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm looking at bundles. I'll have to look at that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just not. I never really got into controllers, so I never played with controllers. I never played consoles when I was growing up. It was always like computer games on PC. Oh. So I get very. I don't think I'm that responsive when I've got a controller in my hand than when I got a mouse and keyboard. And Jericho has a lot of shooting to be done.
Yeah. But I mean, they just you use one thumbstick is for moving and the other one's for looking around.
Right.
So it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you would consider the stick for walking would be like my keyboard, and then the stick to look around would be my mouse.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can adjust this, adjust the sensitivity of it and stuff.
What did you call that? It's like 2 degrees of control.
I mean, because it's being able to use the left thumb analog stick for moving around is more precise than like arrow keys.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe the only chance I'll be able to play Jericho would be to invest in getting a used Xbox and maybe the game. Yeah. It's weird how these games sometimes die and then they disappear off of the electronic markets.
Yeah.
Like you can't get it on Steam. You can't get it on GOG. I don't think so.
Yeah. And it has to do with being licensed, right? I mean, cause like lots of games get remade and put on Steam and put on like, you can download them on, newer consoles and stuff like that. But if a game is licensed in any way, then that license runs out and then those games disappear forever.
Oh, by the way, there was a Russian dude that was trying to do a Undying remaster texture thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still see stuff like that being posted a few months ago, like, oh, this is a model for the chairs. And I have no idea when that thing is either coming out or if he's really working on it actively. But I do remember when I installed Undying a few years ago in the laptop, there was like a bunch of like community patches you could install. And one of them was like to make the textures work a little better. So I need to see if I still have that installed in my old laptop. And
right.
That would be cool.
Well, and Jericho, the game Jericho, right, gave me the inspiration for our D&D game in that you got a group of characters with superpowers fighting against supernatural threats. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like a perfect sort of D&D scenario. So I thought, well, that's a good framework, to sort of create something like our D&D game that we do.
Oh, did I ever send you that review that was made for Undying from a guy called CV11 that's on YouTube? It was a really good review of the game.
No, I don't think I've seen that.
All right. I'll add that to the show notes.
Okay.
There's a YouTube channel I like. It's a guy called CV11. He pretends like he's living in a dystopian future in a prison run by robots underground, and he has to play games. And so one of the games that he reviewed was Undying, and he did a really kick-ass review of Undying. It's really, really good.
Okay. So CV11.
Yeah, it's CIVVIE 11.
Review of Undying.
Yep, it's really good. And he's the same guy who did the fake review of the Hellraiser Never Made Vaporwave game. Yeah. He created like a fake game that he reviewed for the cartridge for the Hellraiser game that was going to come out on the Super Nintendo or something. It's funny. It's funny. He made a fake game with like the Wolfenstein engine. He just fake reviewed it for an April's Fool or something like that. It was a great thing that he did. I'll add that to the show notes. And then we have a little bit more of feedback, right? We have Dustin Vanderpool from our BarkerCast listeners group. He said, just looking forward to a new podcast to listen to. Try something different. Perhaps talk about how David Bowie is probably the template for a lot of early Barker characters. Now, I don't know if that's true because I just made it up, but it sounds good. There you go. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. All right. So, Dustin, that got me thinking probably more than it should have. I think Tesla is a little bit Tesla Bombeck, right? Is a little bit David Bowie-ish with her weird eyes. Trying to think of who else. Who reminds me a little bit of David Bowie? Butterfield from Lord of Illusions.
Yeah,
maybe?
Butterfield.
A little bit.
A little bit. Androgynous characters that sometimes appear in Clive Barker's story. And well, I know that David Bowie didn't. Actually, that's not David Bowie. I was going to say John Constantine from Hellblazer. He was inspired by Sting visually. But I found something here about Del Howison from Dark Delicacy saying that Clive is like David Bowie. He constantly reinvents himself. I think that's almost for sanity reasons.
Those are the ones I can think of. I know he said early Barker characters. Trying to think. I can't think of any Books of Blood makes up characters that might fit that. But that's a cool
maybe
idea.
A little bit. Maybe Fletcher in the Great and Secret Show kind of reminds me a little bit when Fletcher is touched by the Nuncio in the Great and Secret Show.
He's a little Christ-like a little bit too.
Yeah, and he's standing there in the mission, looking at the sea, and it's kind of reminds me a little bit of like The Man Who Fell to Earth, which is a David Bowie movie,
right?
In the sense that he becomes almost alienated from reality and looking past reality into something else, and very mysterious character.
Well, we've got two Great and Secret Show characters in there that are David Bowie's now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. And he said, and then Mark Daniker, right, in Occupy Midian. This was just a comment he made on one of the posts. He said, Nightbreed anime, a Nightbreed series voiced by the cast of the original film, produced by Clive Barker. Why not? I'm like, yeah, why not? I think that's a great idea. I would love that. You know, if it's too hard to get it together, you know, for studios or, you know, streaming channels or whatever to get it together to make a Nightbreed TV series, this is a great alternative. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, you're more of the anime guy than me, but I definitely could see characters like Peliquin and other Nightbreed characters.
Yeah, and Bobby is already a voice actress, so
there you go. But I remember like watching Ninja Scroll, which was one of the first anime movies that I ever saw.
Yeah,
and even though it's got these monsters, they work really well in the concept of this kind of Ninja Scroll anime tradition culture thing, and so I could see that work. I think Clive intended the future of Nightbreed to be more like superhero-y, more like a Marvel DC kind of squad. Yeah. But
well, and DC is a perfect example, right? Of you know, before they were making all these movies all the time, they had a ton of animated series, and they still keep doing it. They keep making animated shows of things that maybe they don't have the time or money to put together in live action.
Yeah, even Marvel does that too with things like Planet Hulk and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that I think this would be a perfect thing to do, and lower budget, and the original actors could all do it on their own time from their homes or whatever. I mean, that's great.
I'm not gonna say that any idea about adapting Clive Barker stuff would be terrible, except if you're trying to do something like a pastry chef meeting with a computer company CEO to create the Weave world, then that's not a good idea.
I would love to see like the first season cover the events of the novel/movie, right? And then the second season pick up from there. And what are they doing now? What's happening after? That would be great.
Yeah. I would like to see them find a different space for themselves and not necessarily to stay hidden, but since they leave us at the end of the movie and the end of the book saying that their savior is here. Okay, so now they need to find a new spot and they need to carve out their place in the world, in the real world, right? Because I would like to see how that comes about, I don't want them to see, like when Midian Unmade, that book came out, everybody was writing stories, and they were still writing stories of Nightbreed hiding in barns or, being hunted down or being in circuses. And I was like, I wanted to see them fixing their life. I wanted to see them finding a place to put the baptizer back together.
Do you remember Del Howison even put a call out to say, please stop sending us stories about Babette? Everybody's doing a story about Babette grown up. We don't need that anymore.
Yeah. There was one or two. Yeah. I would say anime. That'd be great. Yeah. Are you watching any anime?
I think when he says anime, he doesn't necessarily mean Japanese, but he's just saying an animated show. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching this show right now on Netflix called Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Based on that video game, right?
Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077. It's been a really good show, Edge Runners. It's about this guy who's in school, and then he wants to be like a edge runner, which is a kind of a hacker, right? A hacker cyborg in the future, and he gets in with a group of guys who are cyborgs and enhanced with military like hardware and fleshware and stuff, and he just kind of evolves from being like a scrawny kid into like a giant cyborg hulking thing that the more cybernetic enhancements you put in your body, the more you're susceptible to having a psychotic breakdown. So
wow. I've seen ads for it on Netflix, but I haven't watched it because I don't own that game, and I just thought it was supplemental to that, and I just didn't know anything about the game. Yeah. So,
are you watching any anime shows right now?
A really old one actually called Zillion. It was sort of made in collaboration with Sega. So it's these three people that have this gun that they got from aliens, like ancient aliens that they don't know how they work, but when they shoot something, it just like disintegrates them. So these aliens called the Noza are invading, and these guys are like the only line of defense because they have this gun that, you know, can just disintegrate the enemies, and everybody else's guns are ineffective.
That sounds interesting.
It's from like 1985. It's super old. Like before it was Sega had some games on their Master System, which was around the time of the like 84, 85.
You remember when there was a Street Fighter anime?
Yeah, right. Yep.
And I think there was a Tekken one too, right?
I think so. I didn't watch those, but yeah.
You never played Tekken?
No. I was Sega. Tekken was the enemy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Virtua Fighter.
I wonder if they're ever going to bring back Devilman.
Oh, well, actually, that's something I've been reading lately is Devilman. Now their manga are finally translated to English. So
there you go.
I've been reading those. Yeah, I love Devilman.
Yeah.
Although it's pretty grim, you know, it has a beginning and like a definite end. So all the stuff that they make afterwards are like remakes or retellings or what if it was this way instead kind of stuff.
Did they ever make anything live action about that?
Yeah, they did. In Japan, there was a live action movie, and it had even for its time, it had pretty dated looking CGI.
Oh no!
Yeah, I mean it's you have to be really a hardcore fan to watch that. But
I remember seeing Death Note with live action.
Oh yeah, on Netflix, right?
Well, I saw that many years ago. I don't know where that was out. I don't know if it was from Netflix, but I remember seeing that.
There's a Netflix
back in the mid-2000s.
Oh, okay. Well, there's one that's only like maybe 5 years old. That's on a Death Note. That's a Netflix original.
The one I saw was around 2005, so there must have been like a TV show. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
a TV show about Death Note, and I saw that before I ever saw any manga or any sort of anime from Death Note.
Gotcha.
I think it's a really interesting concept, though.
Yeah. I haven't actually. I kind of know the story of it, but I haven't ever watched it or read it.
There's one other thing that I want to bring up, which is we just had to go through the coronation of Charles III.
Oh, right, yeah.
It happened. And I was watching that, and I was just thinking about that 2-part miniseries that came out in the 90s was called Night of the Living Dead London.
Right, yeah.
And it was Clive Barker had this idea to make – so it started out in 1968 or something, right? There's a plane that's landing in London.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy who feels sick, and he goes into the bathroom, and then he turns into a zombie. And,
a woman, right.
Yeah,
and then by the time the plane lands, zombies just spill out of it because the whole plane got infected. I don't know how the pilot managed to land the plane, but...
And then it cuts to 1993, and entire London is overrun with zombies, and one of the last remaining places that has people is the Buckingham Palace, where the royal family is holed up, surrounded by zombies.
Right, and they still are acting like everything's normal, and I think it's meant to illustrate how out of touch the royal family is to the rest of the world.
Boy, and seeing the coronation really hammered that feeling home, because seeing Charles looking miserable, covered in like jewels and holding like 2 giant scepters and having someone give him a jeweled sword, and I was like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, I was seeing Jeff Portis on Facebook has been saying like "not my king," and all I can think of when I read that is like, you know, my king is King Ghidorah and King Diamond and King Kong.
Yeah.
Those are my kings.
That's a nice stack of kings that you got there. Yeah. I have to say.
Yeah,
maybe add some King Crimson to it.
Right, there we go. Yeah, they can divide up the world.
The coronation, and it's like, why are we still doing this? That's it's such an old custom thing, such an old ritual to have them like.
Right,
you got to hold
like
this.
70 years ago when they did it the last time, right?
Yeah, someone made a funny thing where it's like he's got those 2 golden scepters, and someone animated 2 paper plates like rotating on top of them. I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I wonder what Clive has to say about Charles III's coronation. Maybe
nothing. It would be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, what's coming up next?
So at some point, we're going to get back to our A to Z of horror commentaries, continuing Z for Zombie with Day of the Dead. So I'm looking forward to that one. We're going to have more classic commentaries. We just had 2 of those in a row, so we'll take a little break from that. Jericho Squad, I'm hoping we'll record next week, but I'm not sure because I got to get confirmation from everybody involved, and I'm waiting on a couple of more people.
Yeah, we're thinking about May 27?
No, May 13.
Oh, yeah. Okay, 13. Yeah.
Recording. I guess it would be, but it would be airing the next weekend after that because it takes me a while to edit those. And then we've got a surprise interview. I know I saw you had written that on our show notes, but
sorry.
I
know. There's so many things that sometimes can go wrong,
Yeah.
We've had people reschedule 2-3 times and then.
Yeah. And I guess without giving any hints to give it away, I'm somebody we've never had on before, super excited about it. Somebody that's been really important in the Barker universe. Right.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a director. That's all we'll say.
Yeah. And also big thanks to Ian Swanson for suggesting this and for working on putting this together with us. So
yeah, and pushing for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I guess that's it, right? And this podcast having no beginning will have no end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Twitter, or our new Discord server. Watch for our annual Kickstarter fundraisers to get some cool stuff, and you can buy t-shirts on our TeePublic store. Go to tpublic.com and search for BarkerCast. Opening music by Ray Norrish, end credit music by Matt Furness.
Thanks for listening.